DreAllDay.com.
Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. This video topic is three specific on-the-court skills that every player is going to need if you want to play basketball at a high level. You want to play overseas, you want to play pro ball, it could even be the G League or anywhere where you're going to be getting paid and you got coaches on your team and you practicing every day. These are three overlooked skills that players know about, but a lot of players don't emphasize, especially American players, because you think about the way that you practice when you work on your game, or players that you know, or anybody you see practicing. What do you see most of us doing? Working on our handle. We're working on running the pick and roll with cones, or maybe you got some dummy players for you to practice your moves. We're working on doing our moves, our crossovers, getting shots up, post moves, footwork. We're usually working on offense with the ball. That's usually what we work on as American players, but we all understand, whether you play or even if you just watch basketball, you know that in 5-on-5 basketball, everybody can't have a ball. Now, everybody doesn't have a ball at the same time. You might not even get the ball that often, but that's the main thing that we all emphasize. And a lot of players, especially those who come to me talking about playing overseas, they like to sell themselves. Sometimes players be selling themselves when they're talking to me like I'm the one who has to decide if they play overseas. But they'll say things like how many points they can score, what they can do offensively, and things like that. Look, I just did an interview. For those of y'all who didn't hear it, on my podcast, the Work on Your Game podcast, I interviewed Coach Christian Crudell. He's an overseas professional basketball coach in Valencia, Spain. He's been a coach, a manager, agency scout, and he runs his own basketball academy. He helps put players on. So those of you who want to get on playing overseas, you need to listen to that interview on my podcast. Go to DreAllDay.com/podcast. Listen to that podcast. Go on SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify, is on all of those, Apple Podcasts. Listen to what he had to say. And I'm going to give you three specific skills that a lot of players don't bring to the table that you need to have if you're going to play pro ball. Number one skill is you got to be in game shape. Being in shape is a skill. It's not a talent. It's not something that happens by luck. And it's not something that you show up to a team expecting the coach or the trainer or whoever to do it for you. This is something that, listen, I've seen it. I've been to the exposure camps. I've been on the teams. I've seen players show up to a team not in shape and get sent home. And this will happen to you if you show up not in game shape. So a team will always tell you when they sign you and you're about to come over, like, yo, be in shape. Or they'll ask you, are you in shape? And usually a player says, yeah, I'm in shape, or okay, I'll get in shape. But players don't really understand what it means to be in shape. When I say get in game shape, I'm talking about any basketball team that you've played on where you had a coach. There were certain things that coach had you doing so that you were ready to play. Those things, you need to be doing those on your own, making yourself do those. So those practices, and those of y'all who played in college, definitely in college, or even in high school, depending on who your coach was, those those practices where the coach had you running suicides, like 15 suicides in one practice. I'm not talking about spreading them out. I'm talking about 15 suicides back to back. You need to be doing that for yourself. Where they had you running the 17s, where you go from sideline to sideline, or they have different names for these things. Running lines, suicides, whatever you call it, you know what I'm talking about. Full court wind sprints, you had to do 10, and then your group took a break, then the other half of the team, they had to do theirs. As soon as they got done, y'all had to do y'all need to be doing that on your own. That's getting in game shape. That kind of stuff that the coach made you do, and you didn't get enough rest before you had to go do another one, but you knew in the long run it paid off for you because it helped you get in shape for the games. You need to be doing that on your own. You show up to an overseas team, especially in the middle of the season, and you're not in game shape, they will send you back home. Trust me, people think it's a game, they think it's a joke. You will get sent home, you show up not in shape. Now, if you show up at the beginning of the year, they sign you in the off season, maybe you could go through training camp and they'll help you get in shape, but a lot of times they expect you to be in shape. So if you show up not ready to go, that's gonna look bad on you and they will send you back. So that's the number one thing, is getting in game shape. And again, that's a discipline that you need to have to do on your own. Number two skill that a player needs to have if you wanna play overseas is playing defense 100% of the time with 100% of your effort. Now this sounds like a very simple concept. Play defense with all your effort all the time. The players say, yeah, I got it. Well, listen, how often do you practice your defense as opposed to how often you practice offense when you're working on your game? How much time do you spend doing those defensive slides? How much time do you spend doing those drills that I just talked about, getting in game shape? Because we all know that defense is really not a talent. Defense is about effort. The main thing with defense is just trying. Even if you're not that good on defense, if you try hard, you can slow down somebody who's a really good offensive player. You can slow down a good offensive team and maybe give yourself a chance to win if everybody tries hard on defense. So defense is really just about the effort, but you got to be in shape to give the effort. If you're not in shape, I don't care how much you want to try, there's a whole lot of stuff you're not going to be able to do. Because you're going to get too tired to keep making those rotations and getting back and challenging shots and boxing out. Y'all watch the NBA playoffs. I've seen all the Sixers, my hometown team, all those box outs they were missing. The Raptors was grabbing offensive rebounds and scoring on them in Game 7 because they were tired. Guys was out of shape. And they weren't playing fundamentally sound. They weren't playing disciplined defense. That kind of shit you can't do overseas. All right? You ain't got a $150 million contract like Joel Embiid. You can't make those mistakes and get away with it. You'll get pulled out of the game, first of all, and you do it too often, they'll kick you off the team. You'll be out of there, out of a contract, and get sent back home. And this is something that Coach Crudelli, who I interviewed, talked about. A lot of players, especially American players, there's so much emphasis that we all put on offense. Then we get to playing overseas and we don't realize that you got to get that same effort on defense. And it's not something you can just flip the switch and just turn on whenever you decide, all right, I'm going to play defense now. If it's not part of your character to really give effort on defense, and a lot of you players know exactly what I'm talking about, you're not going to be able to keep that on all the time. Eventually, you're going to lapse into your habits, and the coach is going to see that, and that's pretty much a wrap. A lot of players that I know who I played with, whether in college, in recreational leagues, or I just see them in the streets or in these leagues these days playing, they play what I call playground defense. And playground defense doesn't mean that you don't try on defense. It means your only efforts on defense are when you can get a stat, such as a rebound, a steal, or a block. That's how a lot of people play defense. They only play D when they can get that stat. So they'll guard, if somebody got the ball, they'll play hard and try to steal the ball from them. But if you don't get the steal, what happens? Now that player beat you, somebody got to rotate to help you out. Now that guy's open, someone rotates to him. Now somebody else is open, another pass gets made, a wide open three-pointer gets made over there. And on the playground, nobody can trace that open shot back to you because the people on the playground playing and the people on the sideline watching at some rec league, they don't know the game. So they don't know that you're the one who gave up that open three because it happened all the way over there and you over here. And look, you were reaching, you tried, right? It looks like you tried. But see, a coach, a professional basketball coach, a college coach, they know that you made that mistake. They know you're the one who broke down the defense and they're gonna call you out on it. And overseas, I'm trying to tell y'all, you make this mistake once, you coming out of the game. You make it twice, you're not getting back in the game. You make it 3 times, you out of the job. So this defensive discipline that a lot of players they've grown up not having it. And a lot of players that I know, really good players, offensively, they don't have a discipline defensively. They don't give effort on defense. They don't try defensively. Another thing, when I talk about playing playground defense, are players who only play hard on D when they get called out. For example, I remember this one time, I'm not gonna say who this player is, but a friend of mine, I was watching him play in a rec league one time, years ago. And he was matched up with another dude who was supposed to be good. Like, they was both the best players on their teams in this particular league. At halftime of the game, the score was like, it was close, it was like tied. But I knew my man was better than the dude on the other team. I knew he was better. But the score was pretty much tied and they were both scoring. These two guys guarding each other. And at halftime, I said to my dude, like, yo, he's busting your ass. Like, he's scoring on you a little bit too much. Like, I know he can score, but he ain't that good. He shouldn't be scoring. Y'all shouldn't be going bucket for bucket. This is what I'm saying to him at halftime. I'm like, yo, if you better than him, then I can't tell. Right now, y'all about equal. Because every time you score, he's scoring. You need to play some fucking defense. I said that to him, halftime. And in the second half, he started actually locking up and playing D, stopping dude from getting his shot off, blocking his shot, stealing the ball from him. So I knew he could play D when he wanted to. His problem was he only played D like that if somebody said something to him. Or if, let's say, somebody started talking shit to him, like, yo, you ain't shit. And then he would start locking up on that guy who was talking to him. Or somebody in the crowd, like me, said something like, yo, he's killing you. He would start playing D. And a lot of, when I say playground, players play playground defense, that's what I'm talking about. They only start playing hard on D when their pride is on the line. When somebody says something to them, when there's trash talk involved, or they trying to prove a point by getting a steal or a block, that's when they start playing hard on defense. Understand that when you're playing overseas, you got to play hard on defense all the time. Nobody's going to say anything to you, but they're watching you, and the coaches are watching, the assistants are watching, and they know, and you the American, especially if you're the only one on the court, or especially the only one on your team, everybody notices what you do. And when you make a mistake, guaranteed they're gonna notice it. Guaranteed they'll call you out, and guaranteed you'll get pulled out of the game if you don't have that defensive discipline. And a lot of players just don't have it, and this is what happens when those overseas teams, those coaches look at your game film and they see your lack of discipline on defense, they just don't call you back. They just don't reply to your email. They just don't get interested in signing you because they're like, all right, yeah, this guy can score. I mean, he's Kyrie Irving in his highlight tape, but look at his defensive discipline. He doesn't box out. He doesn't play hard on defense. He kind of tries just a little bit, only because he got to look like he's trying. He's only reaching for steals. Every time he doesn't get the steal, which is most of the time, you don't get a steal. I mean, think about it, y'all. The NBA league leader in steals gets what? 3 steals a game. What happens the other 10 times you go after a steal, you don't get it? You're giving up an open shot to one of your teammates. And pro coaches notice when you're the one that broke down the D. Again, they will call you on it, and it's going to cost you a job. So that's the second thing, is being defensively disciplined. And a lot of players just don't want to do this because defense is you don't get a lot of highlight tapes of defense. All right? Usually a highlight tape is scoring points. And the third thing, these last 2 things usually go hand in hand. Any player who doesn't have defensive discipline usually has this third thing, is another flaw of their game. And that's, are you an active player on offense when you don't have the ball in your hands? Are you a complete offensive player? Meaning, if you don't have the ball, are you doing anything, or are you just standing there waiting for the ball? And this is another thing, when I talk about playground players, this is another playground thing. And when I say a player has a playground mentality, that could be, you don't have to just be playing in the streets to have a playground mentality. You can get to college with a playground mentality if you're talented enough. The problem is at every level is natural selection. They're only picking the best of the best to go to each level. So you could be great in high school doing that playground shit, not really playing D, only going after steals. Nobody really notices when you're costing your team points because it looks like you tried on defense. On offense, you only play hard when you got the ball. If you don't have the ball, you basically standing, I could guard you right now. I'm sitting down. I could guard you because you're not going to move unless you get the ball. You don't cut off the ball. You don't set screens for your teammates. You don't even move when a teammate tries to set a screen for you, because all you know is, when I got the ball, I'm going to do my things. But if you ain't got the ball, you're not doing anything. Understand that European basketball, especially, let's talk specifically about Europe, is way more team-oriented than what we do here in the USA. In the USA, we emphasize the individual. Over there, they emphasize the team, meaning you could be a guy who has the capability of averaging 30, but when you go over there, they don't want you to average 30. Like, yo, you might score 12 points, and they're gonna love you. They're gonna be like, yo, you're amazing. Not because you just had 12 points, but because you set some great screens, you grabbed some rebounds, you set your teammates up, you played good defense. It's not all about the statistics over there. Over here, we pay so much attention to stats. Nowadays, especially, now we got the advanced metrics, but dudes is going after stats. Now, how do y'all think all of a sudden, all these players are getting triple doubles so often? How's everybody getting triple doubles out of nowhere? Like in the 90s, the early 2000s, people wasn't getting these triple doubles randomly the way they are now. Now, so many people getting triple doubles. How is that? Is it because players just all of a sudden got better? Is it because players all of a sudden became more well-rounded? I don't think so. My personal opinion is now everybody's aware of it. And you know you're going to get attention for getting it. And I got a guy like Russell average it 3 years in a row. That ain't just, you just all of a sudden became this all-around player who does all these things. No, people know their stats now. We know we're going to get recognized for those stats. So now people start, let me grab a few more rebounds. Let me try to get this assist. And on another note, going back to what I was saying, actually the same thing I just talked about offensively, being a well-rounded offensive player. Some of these players that I play with, against players who I know personally, who I think can play, but they got this playground mentality, so I don't like playing with them all the time. The kind of guys who on offense, they'll pass, but only if they're passing to get a stat. Like, they'll pass me the ball only if I'm open so I can shoot it, because if I make it, they get an assist. Or they'll pass it to me so I can get a layup, or an alley-oop, or a dunk. But they won't just give up the ball to somebody else who wants to go one-on-one, because they know they're not going to get a stat for it. And as soon as they give the ball up, what do? Stand there and wait for you to do what you want to do. And if you happen to put one of these playground mentality players on a team with another guy with the same mentality, one of those guys is going to be moping around the court the whole game because they ain't got the ball. If they're not getting the ball, they don't play at all. They don't play hard on defense. They don't do anything on offense, and their whole mood goes down simply because they're not getting the ball. I know too many players who fit this description. People I know personally. I would call them out by name to their face and tell them this. And when I was playing, I would tell people like, yo, when you ain't got the ball, you ain't doing shit. You just standing around. You're not playing D. You ain't grabbing no rebounds. You don't play hard when you're not getting the ball. Like, what the fuck you on the court for? And understand when you go overseas, you're not going to be able to just bitch and moan until somebody gives you the ball, then you get to do your thing. If you come in there with that bitching and moaning shit because you ain't getting the ball, yo, you're not going to be on the team, let alone be able to talk to the coach or one of your teammates about it. So these three things, because I ain't going to go all day on these topics. These three things, those of you who want to play overseas, or maybe you've had an opportunity or you've been trying, but nobody's really biting, maybe you need to check yourself on these three things. Number one, be in game shape. You show up overseas not in game shape, they will send you home. Trust me, I've seen it happen. Number two, defensive discipline, meaning play hard on defense all the time. Know what it means, where you're supposed to be positioned when you're 2 passes away, when you're 1 pass away, how to help and recover, how to box out when somebody takes a shot. Defensive discipline means not trying to get a steal every time you're on D. That's not the only way to play D, and you don't got to grab every rebound or get a block. You can be in the right place at the right time, positioned properly, and be playing good D, and you don't get any stat for it. But the coaches notice, and the coach is the person whose approval you need if you want to play overseas. Not the fans. It's not your clown ass homies back home looking up your stats after the game. It's the coach. The coach is the one who decides whether you got a job or not. All right, so that's the person you need to be paying attention to. So these things that I'm telling you about here are what the coaches see, not what the fans see, not even what the players see, is what the coaches see. And the second thing is defensive discipline, and the third thing is being a well-rounded offensive player, meaning, do you contribute to the team offensively when you don't have the ball in your hands? Do you set screens? Do you move when someone sets a screen for you? Do you cut off the ball? Are you an effective player when you don't have the ball in your hands? Can you be a happy, productive player even if you don't have the ball all the time? If you claim to be a point guard, but the team says, yo, we want you to play on the wing, or we want you to play the 2, and you're not going to be the playmaker, you're not going to be the one with the ball in your hands, do you still play hard? Do you still contribute? Are you even good when you don't have the ball in your hands? Because I know a lot of players who are great. If you give them the ball all the time, they'll shake dudes up, they'll be hitting their J's, driving to the hole, they'll get you 30 points if you give them the ball all the time. But if they're not getting the ball, they might as well not even be on the court. They turn into they're like a tree on a basketball court. They don't move at all, no cut, no nothing. And then they don't play hard on D because they're not getting the ball on offense. So if I'm describing you, now I know there are thousands of players out there who I'm describing right now. They wouldn't admit it. They wouldn't raise their hand and admit it. But if I'm describing you, understand that these are the very reasons why you wouldn't last overseas. If you have any of these errors, not in shape, not defensively disciplined, and you're only a good player when you got the ball all the time. Listen, overseas ain't no playground. Ain't no rec league. It ain't these summer rec leagues that players playing these days, and everybody got a camera because you're trying to get your little highlight video to impress your friends. Understand, the things that you do to impress these clowns who watch summer league games and think they know basketball, those things will get you cut off of a professional basketball team. Those things will get you fired from a team. Those things will lose you a contract. Don't be fooled by what you see in the summer leagues, or you see some NBA player doing. Listen, the NBA player already got a job. The guys who already play overseas and they come play in the summer and you scored on them, yo, he already has a job. He got a contract for next year. You don't. So you can't do what he does. And every basketball team, if y'all watch the game, y'all notice, there's only one guy usually on every team who gets to dominate the ball and do their thing, but that's in America. Overseas, the game ain't like that. You may get a few opportunities a game to do that, and that's what you see in somebody or some overseas player highlight video, like he did that one-on-one. Yo, most of the game he's not doing that. And if you can sit down and talk to one of them, they'll tell you this. I'm telling you, they don't do that most of the game. That's not the way the game is played over there. It's not the style over there. So y'all gotta it's really just about discipline mentally and the way that you play the game. But unfortunately, I'm gonna say this too, a lot of you players have been raised in such a way that this is the only way you know how to play. And it's gonna hurt you in the long run from really getting the opportunities that you could get. But if you believe you can change, or you believe you already have in place these things that I'm talking about, then shit, go for it. These are what coaches are looking for. And again, listen to that podcast episode of mine where I talk to this overseas coach and let him tell you himself what he wants in a player. Because again, the last thing I'm gonna say, the people you need to impress to have a career playing basketball are not the fans, not even your teammates, is the coaches. And the coaches know what's going on. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.